Why blueprints for business? Well, at least what I took away from it is every business may be a little bit different and you may have uniqueness the way things are structured, but there's certain fundamentals that if you get right, you're more likely to be successful. So with Blueprints for Business, this series, we're going to be doing a monthly webinar. Richard and I together talking about different subjects along the way and have different guest speakers with us also. So super, super excited to get this whole series kicked off.
So we did set up these in a non-ordinary cadence. So it's not going to be the third week of the month every month, but it will be a monthly series because what we have done is adjusted it for calendars, conferences, big high profile things that are going on so that we are not jumping in right over on top of a conference and have to do last minute changes there. So you'll see this in a non-regular cadence. And we hope you can join us. We are also setting up the invitation so that you got to sign up for each one individually so that it's not sitting on your calendar and it's something you blow past because we've all been down that road as well. But super excited. We've got a lot of great topics over the course of the next year with a lot of great expert guests.
Yes.
So, you ready to jump right in?
Yep. So we are also streaming live primarily to Facebook, but to YouTube as well. So I'll be kind of keeping an eye. If you guys see me looking off, it's not that I'm not paying attention. I'm just trying to engage more people and make sure that their voices can be part of this as well. So, before we go any further, I definitely would love for Jane, would you mind taking a quick moment as our proud sponsors of this to tell everybody a little bit about Forwardly? What is it that Forwardly does and how can they best connect with you guys?
Absolutely. Thanks, Matthew. Yeah, so I'm Jane Ingram. I'm from Forwardly, Director of Operations and Marketing, and we're really excited to be sponsoring this series and kind of helping out connect accountants and bookkeepers and giving them a space to chat with Richard and Matthew, because I love chatting with Richard and Matthew, and more opportunities to do that benefits everybody. But what Forwardly is it's an instant payment app. So essentially what we're trying to do is make it easier for small businesses in the US to pay bills and get paid faster than ever. So we do free same-day ACH, payments in 22 seconds for bank payments, and we're adding credit cards in hopefully a couple weeks. So yeah, and we have no monthly subscription. It's just add your bank, add your accounting software, and automate everything from reconciliation to recurring payments. So that's the spiel.
Earlier, I'd asked everybody about if they had any wins for the week. And mine this week is the fact I'm actually back at my house in Ventura and able to be live from here. But there's a bigger reason for it. When we're done with this, I'm going down to Ventura County Hall or City Hall so I can finally do my new DBA and be able to get my new Forwardly account set up with my new corporation, everything else for this year. So, woohoo! I believe in the product that much. We're excited to get it set up and be able to start using it for all of my clients. It's going to be great. So why don't we get started for this week? We thought during this busy time of year, it's a good time to kind of help remind everybody that the different ways we try to retain our sanity during busy season. Right, Richard?
Yes, absolutely. And it gets crazy for everybody, regardless of which side of the fence you're on, whether it's bookkeeping or tax prep. Both sides have their own busy seasons.
Yeah.
And they can be brutal. Carl, you've had a pretty tough season. The deadlines don't change just because kids are sick, right?
Or because your laptop dies.
Oh, I forgot about your laptop. Yeah. That's a great reminder that, busy season, you got to be prepared sometimes. Not sometimes, all the time.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer of always having a secondary laptop, third, fourth and fifth, because when one goes bad for me, if I'm having a bad tech day, I have a really bad tech day sometimes. Cindy, it is super cool to see you. How the heck are you? Local friends. So great to see you on here. Thank you so much for joining in. Really, really appreciate it. So, I'd love to hear from everybody else. What are you guys doing for your own self-care? Any tips or suggestions that you might have to kind of keep yourself happy and smiling out there?
I'll share a tip that I have. You can actually maybe kind of see it a little bit behind me. I have tomato starts going behind me under grow lights. I need to be grounded in order to help with any anxiety or overwhelm I'm feeling. And one of the ways that I ground myself is digging my hands into the dirt. And I currently don't live in a spot where I have land or anything like that where I can garden. And so I am using potting soil and growing my own plants and getting ready to put them into some raised beds that a friend has lovingly loaned me for the season. So that has been my, I take a little break from what I'm doing sitting here and I tend to my plants and talk to them a little bit. And it helps a lot to just kind of bring me back to center.
Do you do that anytime that you need to be brought back to center, or do you typically wait till the end of the day? How does that work into your daily life?
So every morning before I even log in, they get my attention first because we've got to make sure they're all still happy and healthy overnight. And then usually around break time, lunchtime is when I'm looking at them again. I'm just fascinated that I haven't killed them yet. I've historically had a brown thumb. So the fact that they're alive and thriving and growing is just like, I turn around and just am so excited. And then at day's end, we spend a little bit of time making sure they're tucked in for the night.
Nice. Very
I'd
nice.
love to hear from everybody else. Who else here appreciates gardening, either through the chat or speaking up? I seem to find that a lot of my fellow accountants, we seem to ground ourselves by getting our hands into the dirt. So no green thumb, Eldar? What? That's okay. Well,
I am the worst. I can kill a silk plant. I do not keep plants alive at all.
Catherine says she loves gardening as well. Linda, I know you are an avid gardener. You love growing stuff and cooking with it, right? So
yeah, no. I can go take a picture of the tree they have in the corner that's half dead. It's got 4 stalks and just 2 of them are left.
nice.
Okay, so that she's with me. All right.
Nice. Anybody else have any tips, suggestions of what you guys are doing? How do you maintain your sanity, or how do you take a break either at the end of the day or during the day? Go for it, Les.
So the fact that I'm kind of trying to retire helps some of that, but I have bought an electric bicycle and I am really thoroughly enjoying it. And so if I'm like working and I'm getting tired of that working world, I don't like 4-letter words. And so I just go hop on the bike and go for an hour or so ride. I'm refreshed. I come back, work a little longer, or take a nap, whichever comes first. But I'm really enjoying a bicycle. If you haven't ridden on an electric bicycle and you can ride a bicycle, get one. Yeah.
Ironically, I'm starting to work with a company that is doing electric bikes. And so pretty soon I'm expecting I might have one at my house, which I feel kind of guilty because I feel like I should be getting the exercise. And if I'm on the electric bike, I'm kind of cheating that, right?
Well, I pedal too.
Okay.
It's not just all electric.
Okay.
But, I'm getting a little older. And so if I want to brake, I just turn the handle and it works great. So, yeah.
I love it. I love it. I tend to go for walks. I live in a gorgeous city. It has beautiful, amazing landscapes, great architecture, and I tend to just find a new area to walk around in. I've been here 10 years. It's a 4-square-mile town, and I still find new neighborhoods and new things to walk around in, and it always recenters me. And that can be 2 a.m., can be at noon, whenever. And I'm also with Les. Anything I can do to get a nap in the middle of the day, I'm doing it. I've hit that age where nap is like the coolest thing ever.
So we have Ariba that's actually watching us live on Facebook, and she was talking about, she's from Bangladesh, and she loves to get out, basically enjoy the fresh food, the fish, everything else out in that area. So thank you for watching us also on Facebook. And then we've got Karen. Do you like folding laundry?
Yeah, I know. I'm going to agree with the I may be crazy part of that. But Yeah, that's the last thing in the world that I enjoy doing.
I would call it normalizing behavior. I like to really get up. I have a home office where it's sometimes difficult to keep the boundaries. And, for me, getting up, doing dishes, or, like this afternoon, I was doing some ironing. That helps to just get out of that space, get into something else, get grounded, and then get back to it.
Leah, I have in the first few years of my business, and I've shared this widely. I kind of lost track of it during COVID, but I've started doing it again. I live where I work. A lot of us do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so creating that separation is what you're doing through normalization activities. What I do is actually psych myself out sometimes. And I used to do this every single day. I would actually run an errand in the morning, go grab a coffee, go drop off something, photographs to get reproduced, laundry, whatever, drop it off, come back home, and my brain was like, now I'm walking into the office.
Mm-hmm.
And then the
Right.
exact opposite at the end of the day. When I'm done, I'm done. I walk out of the office, walk out my front door, go do something, come back. It doesn't even need to be more than 2 minutes. But when I come back, I'm in home mode. And
Yeah.
so my brain, it's just an on-off switch, whether I'm at the office or whether I'm at home, even though the home houses my office. So I found that mental exercises like that really help me create those boundaries. So I love that you said that you're creating that boundary.
Who else here is working from home? Like I am.
Definitely.
Okay. So I
Pretty much the majority.
most of us, right? And like was already being said, it can be very difficult to break that habit of wanting to overwork all the time. For me, I've got a beautiful place in Ventura, but it's 30 feet, if I'm being generous, to my bed right now. That's why nice green screen, everything else. So sometimes it can be tough to disconnect. And that kind of leads us to some of the other stuff we want to talk about. Of a big part of the difficult of this time of year is making sure you're taking care of yourself and you're avoiding burnout, right? Anybody here experience burnout? Feel like they're about to? Okay, you guys get it. So then I feel, with your guys' permission, I feel comfortable kind of sharing a little bit more about my backstory quickly to kind of explain, some of the stuff I've gone through, which I don't think most people know yet. In 2021, 2021 was an absolutely amazing year for me, but at the same time, it was a very, very challenging year. I used to have a business partner in my company, and unfortunately, through COVID, we decided to split ways. And as can happen, sometimes it's not always the friendliest way that it happens. So I fortunately maintained the company, kept the clients, which meant I also kept all the work and was trying to pay through a lease that cost a whole bunch per month. So keeping everything going, and thought I'd be Superman and still be able to do all of that, let alone community building, as well as still going and speaking at conferences, because heck, why not throw all that stuff on top as well? And I ended up ignoring the symptoms and the signs of what burnout is when you just push yourself too far, right? And I got back from Scaling New Heights 2021, had my business where we had the office space, and my lease was ending the end of October. And basically I had 2 days to finish moving everything out of the office. And I was already just beat and tired. So I got home and had to move most everything out. Called my good friend Donnie. He was able to help me out as well. Physically move everything, get it over to a storage unit. And I remember by the time we were done, there's still a heavy, like full truckload left to be picked up. I drove the U-Haul back and I could barely see the road as I was driving back. And I got back to my house and basically passed out, fell asleep. Donnie came by the next day to come pick me up so we could do that next round of cleanup. And at that time, he couldn't even wake me up. He was like, "You were just passed out, man. You were exhausted." That led me to, like, when you push so far like that, you don't just get to quickly rebound, because you've already tried to fake that rebound so many times and get back up and going. And I ended up having to take quite a bit of time off. And then the thoughts started kicking into play, right? You start getting mad at yourself, like you're not able to accomplish all the things that you want to be doing. You're not communicating to your clients, everything else the way you should. And then I actually made probably one of the worst decisions I ever could have in my entire life, which was I felt if I wasn't servicing and helping my clients the way I shouldn't be on social media because they shouldn't see me chatting on social if I'm not doing the other stuff. And it pulled away from my community at that same time. I burnt out. I dumped. And I tried really hard to get back up and going, but it just didn't work. And I disappeared for a good 9 months. Not easy thing to talk about at times, but truly it's because of a lot of people here and because of the community that I'm even back again. My goal has always been, and anybody who ever wishes after the fact, because this is not about me today, but if you ever want to have a conversation about it, I'm always happy to talk about it. Our goal is to kind of help share what does it feel like when you burn out, and then what is it like to try to come back as well. So, anybody else experienced something like that in the past?
No.
Christy, go ahead. You're muted.
So right before COVID hit, and I'm talking right before, like February 2020, I was a W-2 employee working in a CPA firm, and I had been hired to essentially build a bookkeeping division within the CPA firm. And so I was just at the tail end of getting everything together. I was getting the rest of the team on board that were going to be handling all of the bookkeeping. And then COVID hit and everything shut down. And this was a traditional CPA firm where everybody worked in the office and nobody knew how to work from home except for myself because I had had a business before and I was cloud-based. And so I knew all the things, but they did not. And so they relied very heavily on me to prepare everyone, to create training information, to show them how to use Slack, to show them how to use Zoom. And we're talking about folks between, you know, right out of college all the way up to 80-year-old partners who hadn't retired yet. And so I had a wide range of 20 to 30 people who were poking at me constantly throughout the day to just get help doing basic, you know, online things that now we all take for granted because we've all had to like go through that. But at the time, you know, there was just a chaos. Plus it was tax season. Plus I'm a single mom and my kids were home and they were, you know, old enough to stay on their computers, but not old enough to stay off their phones while they were in school. So I had to be monitoring that as well. And with everything going on, then my partner of several years found out that he had end-stage liver failure, and we live 4 hours away from each other. So I just completely broke. I couldn't do it anymore. Luckily that my kids' dad is an amazing human being, and he stepped in to, you know, take a big share of the load with the kids so that I could take some time for myself. But I almost went to the hospital and checked myself in. I literally thought I was going crazy. I didn't see how I could possibly do this anymore. I didn't have any active thoughts of harming myself, but I certainly wished that I could just go to sleep maybe and not wake up the next day. I was totally okay with that for a while. And it was very scary. And I just, even coming out of that, it felt like I was stuck in mud and that I was just trying desperately to put one foot in front of the other or grasp at something. And it became less about being productive and more about, can I just put one dish in the dishwasher today? Not the whole sink. I'm just going to do one dish and see if I can start to build on that. And so through the help of my therapist at the time and my village, my support system, I was able to come out of that, but it took a long time and I had to learn how to give myself grace and take breaks and tell people no and put boundaries up. And that was incredibly difficult for this people pleaser.
You know, you mentioned a whole lot of things in there, and I would like to add, I was so happy to hear that he got the transplant that he needed.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that
He's
was
3 years out and he's doing wonderful. So he's
Congratulations.
very, very healthy.
very, very happy to hear that. But you're talking about a ton of different things that hit you all at once. And so when we talk about burnout, Karen asked in the chat, define burnout for us. And so Matthew and I put together some lists of what are some of the deep warning signs, and you named off many of them. And it's the lethargic feeling, the inability to do basic functioning around your own home sometimes. Myself, when I burnt out many years ago, it was also about dishes. And it was ironic. I used to take out just enough to put the dirty ones in and then rerun it again. So I may only have a half a load of dishes, but I would run it a second time because I just didn't have the energy or the wherewithal to get everything emptied. So it's difficult from that perspective and you don't even realize it. You're kind of just going through the motions of keeping life together. But some of the bigger ones, and I think we can also all relate and dig in, but procrastinating on things that you know to do.
Real
That's
quickly, does anybody around here clean their house as this form of procrastination from work since you work at home? My house has never been cleaner sometimes.
I organize in my house, but I have somebody come in and clean because I don't want to do that. But I absolutely will pull everything out of a closet when I am avoiding work and just reorganize it. Now, you've been to my house, Matthew. Everything's already in place. So it's weird when I do that, but I will pull everything out and just start over. But it's also about sweating the small stuff. Like why can't I do the dishes? Why can't I do this? So finding coping mechanisms that you can rationalize is often also another sign of burnout. And I want to say right up front, we are not medical professionals, but we have researched the topic pretty heavily to make sure that we're bringing some good information out there. Others are lack of focus.
Well, so I want to real quickly add to that. And there's a real important reason I feel, and there's a reason I feel it's very important to kind of share this story, that should you ever be fortunate enough to find yourself that you have a platform where others are listening to you or watching you, and maybe you know it or you don't, it's your responsibility to share the good and the bad. There's always a positive way to share the bad, I believe. But if we don't do that, I would hate to think that somebody else gives up too early because they don't recognize that we all struggle at times, that we all have the speed bumps we have to get through. So, anybody, whether you're watching this now, replay, #replay, if you ever have questions about any of this stuff, please feel free to reach out. And it's real. There was a time I started to feel bad saying together we all succeed, which that was my thing, right? Because I wouldn't rely on my own community, but it's my community that brought me back. So,
Matthew, you had people checking on you constantly.
yeah.
And one of the other things, I mean, I was one of those people, and I reached out probably daily for a while, and then the cadence would change where it would be weekly, and then I got more aggressive and more daily. But what happens in burnout is you couldn't respond. You just couldn't respond and let us know just even the most basic things like, are you okay? And
yeah, for me, the bleeps, the blurps, the chirps became so overwhelming that I had to just shut it all off. And that was my own doing. There's those who know me that I'd love to try to help others as best I can. And you can extend yourself too far, if you're not taking care of yourself first. And those bleeps, blurps, and chirps became so overpowering that I had to silence all of them, which meant I would take my phone and I would shut it off and turn it away. And it was just like, I didn't want to talk to anybody, not even my own family or anything else. And that's another example, like when you're looking for the symptoms of it is disconnecting from communication, avoiding communication. And that may just be either through email with clients, you're afraid to open something up because there's another request coming your way was one of the big things for me. Or it's just connecting with people that are around you, all the time.
so when you were there, what brought you back?
Missing my community.
So it had to be
My family.
it had to be a scenario where no matter how many people were reaching out, you had to get there to where you could follow up.
I think the hardest part, and again, if you guys have felt this and agree, raise your hand. Hardest part when it came for burnout was I lost faith in myself. That hurt, because if you don't have that, that can be very challenging. So when I first started to come back and try to pop back into community, everybody may have noticed I started jumping in and answering questions in different groups. That was very, very intentional. The way I met Linda was answering other people's questions in Intuit's community a long time ago. If I had a bad day, I'd go answer questions for random people because it made me feel better. I basically leaned back into that concept to try to help me. Not only that, but I needed to remind myself, I do know what I'm talking about. I do know. And sharing that knowledge with others helped me recognize that I still had it. That's a key thing about burnout and starting over. You're never starting from scratch again. You already have all the knowledge and experience and the wisdom, my favorite quote, Aristotle, wisdom is equal parts, equal experience and reflection. You always have that to draw back on and rebuild. That's a super important thing if you're ever going through it.
Absolutely. Social media, though, when you're in a burnout stage, it can be kind of a double-edged sword, right?
Yep. Yeah. There were a couple times I would try to pop in because I was like, so this kind of is another one. Like, if you try to jump back in and then it's not comfortable yet, it's okay. You don't have to do it for anybody but yourself, right? It just makes sure you're okay. I would try to jump back in, and because so many people were so caring and concerned and they want to check in on me, thank you everybody who did that. So when I say this next thing, I'm still grateful. I'm so happy that you did it. It was overwhelming for me. So I still had to push back.
We've got some really important questions in the chat that I'd like to pull up, Matthew, because I think, Karen, you're about one step ahead of us because we're going down this path, but it's perfect timing. It really is. It's a great segue. So Karen has two questions. One, did you get mental health help from a professional? Because burnout can lead to depression and vice versa. And we came prepared with all kinds of statistics about how many people go down that burnout path to depression. It's about 530 million people any given day in the world that are suffering from true depression to the point where they can't leave their house or function normally. That's a staggering statistic. That's 1 in 5 people in the world.
A big number.
So treat people gently, definitely, if you're not aware of the circumstance. But Matthew, I'm going to read the other questions and then want you to answer them. So if so, did that help? And number 2, how do we deal with the feeling or perception that burnout is shameful? Wonderful question, Karen. Or that being exhausted is not burnout. Or if you were just more capable, you wouldn't be so exhausted. Lot going on in those. Questions.
Who can relate to those questions? Right?
I think everybody here has related to that at one point. So let's start with the first one. Did you get professional mental health treatment to come out?
So I'm a firm believer of always being fully transparent and honest in things. And my answer to that is yes, I did, but not enough. And what I mean by that is for me in California, probably other places as well, my experience in trying to actually get connected to a counselor and be able to get in to just be able to talk to somebody, because I needed a venting place. It took 30, like you go and you try to set up, and then it took 30 days to even be able to see somebody. That when you are in the midst of everything, it kind of stops you through the process. I did connect with a person, and I connected a couple different times and was starting the process, but then I went to my family and stayed there. So should I continue to? Yes. The transparency part of it. I think the insurance system is broken. I'm not going to go political. I'm working on that with my new business. And I do promise to everybody, I will push forward to focus on that because I need to. So,
and Matthew, I'm going to share a little bit about my experience with you as well. We've talked about this at length. it was hard to get you to realize that you needed to see a mental health professional at first. And there was a lot of pushback, and that is okay. It was what I think got you there, and I am making an assumption, was nobody was forcing, but the idea kept building on itself. We kept there was several people that were reaching out to you on a very consistent and regular basis. We even banded together to reach out to you.
Yeah.
And we kept reminding you that if you need to get help, you need to get help. Whether that sunk in or not, I'm not 100% certain, but I know that you did. And I can say, one of the things we want to do today is really educate on this process. So, Karen, one of the things that we really also want to bring out is what you can do for others as well as yourself when burnout or just something isn't right is approaching people. And we've got a whole list here, but it starts with starting a conversation. It does. And those conversations should be approached with empathy and support, not solutions at the beginning, because telling somebody what they need isn't always the best thing when they don't know what to do for themselves. So listening is really the number one thing that anybody can do when anybody is in this world. And if you're experiencing it yourself, seek out a conversation where you have a trusted confidant that you can just talk to. Share it with them.
So real quickly, I want to address that part because I think it also goes back to part of what Karen was saying. And by no means, like, obviously my logic was not correct on this, but that part can be really, really hard because, we all try so hard to put up, like, I don't even say a facade or a face that we've got everything all together and we're pushing, strong. We say that to ourselves because we're always trying to improve and, reach our goals. So to be vulnerable enough to actually say, like, I'm upset is really, really hard to do for everybody at times. And to have somebody that you can trust wholeheartedly and to share your deepest, darkest, privatest things with can be difficult at times. I find so, but I do suggest, like, do it. One thing that when Rich and I were talking about this is a little tricky, but I stand by it. If you see somebody that's kind of going that way, reach out to them and ask them for help for something you need. Get them to think of, how many of you here love helping solve somebody else's problem, but not your own?
And it's almost a way to avoid our own sometimes, but people's innate reactions when you ask for help, I need a favor. How many of you here are like, oh, I'm not going to do you a favor? It's a wonderful way to really project out what you're needing as well. But asking somebody for help in something unrelated absolutely gets the mojo flowing a little bit back to you. It really will. I think one of the bigger takeaways when reading some of the medical literature as well is offering support, not solutions. And I want to dig into that a little bit because our very nature, we're all consultants. We all like to solve problems. So if somebody comes to you and they're like, I'm burning out, I'm going down a depression well, I'm spinning out with lots of rabbit holes, whatever the case may be, let them talk it out. Saying to them, and this goes against my very nature, I'm a business coach, for crying out loud. I want to solve the problems, but listening is the most powerful tool at that point, because telling them what to do doesn't always, because people's reactions are often exactly the opposite. I'm not going to do that.
It was so anybody and everybody who sent me messages, I saw them. They helped. They got me here. I may not have responded, but I saw them. And it was what led me to kind of flip this back around a bit, because this whole story, while I'm still going through it, has a great happy ending. As far as I'm happy going, I'm happier, however I should say that. Again, it's because of the community and all the people that are reaching out, and people that came to visit me from different states, and come say hi. Alicia, thank you. Stacy, thank you. So many other people. All of those little touch points and just checking on me motivated me, that when I was in Riverside right before QuickBooks Connect 2022, I wanted to get back in the community. I was like, I've been trying a couple of times, but I was always so afraid and nervous that if I jumped in, I'd get all the bleeps, blurps, and chirps. So I was like, you know what? I just need to jump in with both feet. So I found out that Connect was in Vegas that year. I was in Ontario, which made it super easy. I was able to get a super cheap flight, super cheap hotel. And I basically didn't tell anybody. There was like 2 people that knew that I was coming. And I just popped up. Didn't even have a ticket at the time to go. I was like, I'm just going to go see everybody. Just get some hugs, say hello, and reintroduce myself back into the community. And it was amazing. And the support I received from everybody from that, even a couple of people coming up to me and, thanking me for being honest about the struggles I was going through, that helped them look back onto themselves, really helped and empowered me, and made it to where before the end of the year, I got back into my own home, because I knew I needed to. It's a mental thing. I was like, I need to start my year back in my place. I was able to keep my place the whole time and be pushing forward.
Matthew, I want to interrupt for just a quick second, and I want to read a comment from the chat that I think is brilliant. I think having open and vulnerable conversations like these are critical to normalizing the signs and symptoms of burnout. Shame lives in the dark. I want to say that again. Shame lives in the dark. It does. Talking about it brings it front and center, causing shame to lose its power and find community with others feeling the same way. Thank you, Christy. That perfectly summarized a bunch of things. Now, I do want to also, Matthew, I want to keep us on track. We've got not that this wasn't on track, but we've got some healthy habit type things, that tips, tricks, and traps that we want to dig into as well. And I want to make sure that we have some time for some open conversation. So I'd like to jump in to some of the encouraging healthy habits. And it's more than the normal things that you hear all the time. Whenever we hear about self-care, usually the same things: exercise,
Eat right,
eat right, nutrition, sleep. We know all of those things. It's deeper than that. If you're depressed, you can't run your business. One of the most important things Matthew and I were talking about is having something to look forward to. Planning a vacation a year out, planning a vacation 6 months out. Now, I can't run my business, so how am I going to afford the vacation? Installment, wherever, but having something to look forward to.
it's super crucial to me.
Yeah. And Matthew, now you may have a game night that you look forward to, or a weekend away, or a vacation. So it doesn't have to be something enormous and huge. It can be something as much as a game night with neighbors and or friends. And so, okay, keeping going on the list just so that we can get it out there to discuss, taking some time off. And that goes along with having something to look forward to, but truly, it sounds very counterintuitive. I'm all behind. I can't keep up with my business. One of the things sometimes that really brings it back around to normality is taking time off. Because yes, you'll still come back to all of that work, but you will come back refreshed. As opposed to, it's still there tomorrow, it's still there the next day, it's still there the next day. So adding a day off in there isn't going to push it out any further. It's just going to have you come back with a little bit better and a lighter attitude, which definitely helps.
If anybody here has finished all their work, raise their hand, please. Good job, Les.
That was funny. One of the others that Matthew and I were, when we were coming up with this list, one of the ones that I added in there, is go walk the dogs. Now, how many don't have dogs? Okay, I don't have dogs either, but go walk the dogs. It's a metaphor. Guess what? Your neighborhood has this time where all the dog walking happens.
Yeah.
And that's when all the neighbors come out, very low key interactions. Hey, how you doing? What's going on in your world? 5-minute interactions, and then you move on. It's nice to see my neighbors, even if I don't have a dog to walk. So I will go walk the dogs metaphorically because I will see people. I will, and it doesn't have to be hardcore interaction. Some of the hardest things here is, if I have to have a 3-hour game night, I'm not going to make it through it. I understand what it's like to be an introvert. Believe it or not, I'm an extroverted introvert. I would rather be in my house, quiet and alone, than anywhere else in this world. Do I talk to a lot of people all day? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I don't want to talk anymore, except in little tiny bursts. So what I do is I go out and meet the neighbors. I have people that I run into a couple, 3 times a week, known them for 9 years, have no idea what their names are. But it's nice. I get a smile. We talk about, oh, the puppy's growing up and nonsense for 5 minutes, and then I continue walking. It's great to do that.
Who else has a suggestion? Any tips or tricks that they'd like to share as well?
I've got another one that I love.
Okay.
And it's a ritual for me.
Yeah.
And what I do is every Friday, when I am done with work, I take my webcam down. Pain in the butt to do it. Take my webcam down. I used to put it in a drawer. Now I just put it on a little shelf behind my computer, but I take my webcam down. That means if I come back to that computer, I'm on my time, not anybody else's. I don't have to be talking to anybody. I don't have to be on camera for anything or any reason. It just signals to me I'm in my own time, and it helps me create that boundary. And so I ritualistically, Matthew came over to the house one Friday night. He's like, "Where's your webcam?" I'm like, "Oh, I move it off every day, every Friday. Pull it down."
Thinking right now, well, that means Matthew'd have to take his phone and hide his phone and this and that and all the other cameras. He's always trying to record videos all the time, right? But it's a good ritual.
Matthew, you gave another one that I think you said helped you a lot, which was going to the grocery store.
It actually started because of COVID.
Not doing the big shop.
Yeah.
Doing the daily shop. What do I need today? It's an out of the house experience.
Yep.
Again, you're not necessarily socializing with everybody in the store, but you're interacting. You're out there. And it's a low-key interaction. Nobody's really having conversations in the grocery store, but you're getting smiles and nods and the little dopamine hits that do tend to bring you out of the place that you are. One more thing, I want to throw it out there because I think it's an important one, and that's a glass of wine here and there, great, but don't drink alone. If you find yourself drinking heavily, lots of alcohol, you're spiraling. And it's important to recognize it. So hearing it out loud for anybody that might be going through 2-3 bottles of wine or, half a bottle of scotch to cope, that's the time to get some help. But drinking alone is definitely a sign of depression. It's definitely a sign of burnout to a lesser degree. Matthew had another one that I really loved that he added to the list that I thought I've not done that. Less formal Zoom meetings. Nothing says you have to be at your desk.
Yeah.
Take them on your phone, walk and talk at the same time.
Go outside, sit these are the little things that have been helping me rebound and recover is why we're trying to share these things, because it's still aspects of it of a journey. That I got new patio chairs outside, and best thing I ever did, I got them for $100, super deal. But now I go outside and I have meetings there, or I'll talk to people on the phone outside instead of being in my house the entire time. And the grocery store, how do you think I got through COVID? man, my grocery people were my best friends. They were the only ones I could talk to during the time. And it really, really helped. Scheduling, the scheduling one, again, this is a big one to me that I have committed myself to at least once a week. I get out with friends at this point, minimum once a week now. And that can just be going to get lunch or dinner or something, or more, or something basic. But I also try within like a 3-month period of time to have something on the calendar, like we mentioned. It could be something cheap, like a quick concert that's coming locally. And the coolest one, which we mentioned before, but I got this when I was just got in Riverside getting my dad's car smogged. AAA. You can prepay for a vacation, and even if you have to cancel at the last minute, they'll give you the money back, or you can push it off to something else. So, am I good at saving? Paying for a $2,500, $3,000 vacation? No, but $200, $300 a month? Heck yeah.
I'm also going to say this for the accountants in the room who love a bargain. Both AAA and AARP offer some amazing discounts if you just seek them out. I just booked a trip to Austin. I'll be in Austin next week. I used my AARP card and I got 40% off the room at a little boutique hotel that is not a chain, just because they have discounts provided with your AARP membership. So I want to read a comment, Matthew, from Leah. My experience is that the more I give into this and stay at home and avoid others or going outside, the worse it gets. Yes, it's absolutely validated there. It gets, the worse it gets. It's exhausting, but I make myself, even if it's only for 10 minutes a day. I think that what the context there was talking about getting out and doing things, Leah. And thank you for sharing your experience in the chat about going down this path for 18 months and while you were back home in Germany. It can be rough. And we're glad you're here. We're glad you're back. Definitely.
Lisa Arnett actually on YouTube chimed in. Lisa's a good friend as well. I go up and down on these emotions regularly, she said, and I recently decided to basically set something up and that says go outside every day. And now every day at noon, she gets a reminder, and doesn't matter how long it is, she makes sure she gets outside at least for just a little bit. The time change, who here appreciates the time change? No, I love it. I mean,
I'm glad that we have light in our evenings. The changing of the time,
what's it?
1,000 curses. 1,000 curses.
Carl, I'll tell you what I did, and this is the first year that I've done it after saying for the last 25 years I would do this. The week after the time change, the entire week, I make sure not to start my day until an hour later. It's like moving a time zone. And so when I travel, I can adjust in 2 or 3 days, and we all tend to. So I took the same philosophy, and now what I've done is every time it's time change for the next, I think, 5 years, I have it on my calendar, and I've blocked out what would normally be the first hour of my day so that I am adjusting and I get to sleep in a little and that was really helpful. This was the first year I was like, I'm on fire. I'm ready to go. I just refused to not do that this year. And it was really, really helpful. A couple of other tips that I want to throw out there, because Matthew has talked about community. And when we, as accountants, hear about community, we often think things like QB Community Live, Facebook groups, Roundtable Labs, Realize Community, all the different communities that are out there in the world. It can also be a hobby group. It can also be other places that you meet up with people in your community. It can be as simple as a town hall meeting. I did a really fun thing when I was feeling a little overworked and a little, just like, why am I doing this? Beating myself all day long, all the time. And so I set up, we have again, resort town where I live, but we have a program here over the summer that was called the 12 for 12. So one week it was a saxophone lesson. One week it was a watercolor lesson. Next week it was a saxophone. Did I say saxophone already? Sorry. Another week it was rollerblading. Another week it was bowling. All designed for people in my age category. And I made some great friends at it. I have kept up with 2 of the things. And hopefully in a couple of years, you'll see me doing a saxophone solo. But I've kept up with 2 of them and I found some new interests. I also, on a very weird whim, bought and now I'm not going to remember the name of it. Oh my God, a theremin. Ridiculous instrument. You don't touch it. It uses sound waves and you play with it. It's what the Star Trek theme was made with. And I love it. It takes like years to master, but it's very fun from the minute you open it up. So I've just been having fun with it and I've been taking theremin lessons on the side. So get out, do something. It helps. It refreshes. It energizes. We've got about 9 minutes, Matthew. Do you want to open this up for questions?
Absolutely. Anybody? So actually, I would love to say all of these sessions are always meant to be fully interactive, and feel free to interrupt us anytime at any
Absolutely.
time, of course. So, if anybody has other questions, we have been watching through the chat as best we can there. I love the idea of having, a support group or a positivity group, maybe is another way we could try to say it for those that just need somebody to bounce things off of. Is there, does anybody have questions for the group itself, for myself, for anybody? Okay.
So we've had a couple of people in the chat say that they're bouncing into the cycle, and they have been for a few years. I know that both Matthew and myself will personally be happy to talk with you about experience, about not experience, about just talking. If you want to talk, pretty much any time.
Yep.
Please feel free to reach out. Oh, and that is such an empty gesture sometimes when you say that to somebody.
I mean it 100%. If you know me, I mean it.
I do too. I don't want anybody to be going through that. And if a kind voice, a friendly word can help, we'll do our best.
Even a step further, if you know somebody else who might be going through it, I'd be more than happy to be a list, just an ear for them, whatever. So, Christy, please.
I just want to add something. I mentioned it in the chat, but one of the things that I had to learn during the hard times is we can by nature be so hard on ourselves.
Amen.
And hold ourselves to such ridiculously high standards that we would never in a million years hold anyone else to. And so I had to learn how to give myself some grace. And I had to realize that if I wouldn't say it to a friend who was going through the same exact thing, there is no reason I should ever be saying it to myself. I needed to learn how to become my own best friend. And that was really, really hard because my self-talk was terrible. But I think the reason why a lot of us maybe are going in and out of burnout or in and out of these cycles is because that's when we start to get too hard on ourselves. And we have to remind ourselves that we're human and this is normal. And, maybe priorities are shifting. But just, if you catch yourself saying horrible things to yourself, ask yourself, would I say this to my child? Would I say this to my parent? Would I say this to my best friend? And if the answer is no, then you have to correct it in your own mind. And eventually it gets easier to do that.
Amazing. Les, and then Karen. Les, you're muted. So we'll go to Karen and then we'll come right back to you, Les. Okay. Thank you for your questions.
I just wanted to kind of add on to what Christy said about that negative self-talk and that voice, because I think, at least for me, one of the hardest things with dealing with burnout and depression and exhaustion and everything else, but burnout, especially professionally, is feeling like you do not have the time to deal with it because you have bills to pay. You're responsible for other humans. You have to pay the mortgage. You have to buy the food. You have kids. You have everything else. So how can it, and so much of the guidance online is will just stop working so hard and just take a few months off and do this and that. And how many of us can afford to take 3 months off or 6 months off or however long it takes? But so obviously suggestions there would be helpful. But kind of as Christy was talking, I was thinking about how much energy does that negative self-talk suck from our lives? And if we can fight that, maybe we have a little bit of energy to do the work and find the time to rest. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a energy, emotional suck from our lives. And if we didn't have that, maybe we could be better equipped to do some of the other things about burnout. And, but also a question for the group, what do we do if we just can't stop working? We can't get rid of the stress that's helping to exacerbate the burnout.
I will tell you what I have done very recently, and because I realized I really have overloaded my daily work.
Mm-hmm.
I've pulled in partners, including Matthew and others, to take on some of the work, even if it's temporarily, so that it's not all on me. And I routinely try to assess what is capacity really. Understanding what capacity is probably one of the most important things that most accountant business owners don't do. You're in the roundtable community. We talk a lot about things. One of the things that is a very common theme is, do you have the time to take on the next client? Well, I'm sure going to find a way is the typical response. And I always try to challenge that typical response. No, do you have the ability and the time to do this? Don't care how big it is. If you don't have the ability and the time, why put yourself through 15-hour days? I think one of the other things, and you're a tax preparer, Karen, there's no secret on that. For years, for a million years, CPAs, tax preparers, EAs glamorize season. And why are we glamorizing 18 to 22 hour work days? I see it all over tax Twitter constantly.
That's I was raised with the idea that, like, I didn't take lunch breaks before.
Right.
We didn't get paid overtime. That was just what was normal. And it started to create a certain work ethic, which I think as a entrepreneur, there is a time to hustle and grind and build your business. And I still support that. But you have to understand when you need to back off of that and actually like balance it back out. That idea of, I used to call it work-life balance. There is no such thing. I now very intentionally say life-work harmony and trying to figure out how to balance those two things together better. And it's saying no more. It's amazing what no does.
I don't think it's ever a balance. We never set, we don't have balance because we don't have that just by the way the system is set up. A 8-hour day with a 1-hour commute on both sides is 10 hours. Plus you have to get dressed and ready and grab breakfast and all the things. It's 15 hours, even if you're only working 8 sometimes. And so what does that do? It leaves no home life. So one of the things that I always suggest when people are going down this path is, and they're like, I can't stop. So great question. I want to acknowledge the question that you asked, Karen. I can't stop. I've got bills to pay. I understand. But you also have to take care of yourself. And so how do you do that? Well, making a ritualized decision to say the weekends are for me. I have electronic free weekends constantly. Matt will often be like, hey, what you doing? And text it to me. And I've finally gotten him used to, I don't look at texts on the weekends. I don't care who they're from. I don't look at them. The only way to get me on the weekend is to call, because I don't leave my phone on my body on the weekend. I leave it somewhere in the house. I turn the ringer on so I can hear if somebody calls. That's the only noise I want from my phone on the weekend.
Richard, real quickly, I want to talk and just address the question about, well, how do you stop if you have to pay for all, you still have all these bills, everything else? Again, transparency. I'm still digging out. I'm still paying, like figuring out little bits at a time to get these things all caught up. But you know what the true secret is? They can't kill you. They can't take money from you if you don't have it.
And there's no debt or prison.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have to be like, it's embarrassing for me to say that as an accounting professional, but you know what? I own it. I'm getting from that time my own tax stuff figured out. And I'm proud of the fact, like, for starting truly as of May of last year, how far I've been able to come thanks to the support of this entire community who continue to believe in me and like fed me jobs and here and there, and the clients that came back to me, and being more intentional with my time and charging more. And I started charging more to where I could mentally tell myself it was okay to give away certain free time the way I wanted, because that's my balance of the things I wanted. But I'm honoring my obligations as best I can, and slowly but surely just taking care of them, because they can't kill me. I hope that helps somebody.
I think it will. I think it will. It is a reality check. I'm also going to say, I've worked with enough people to say this. Cobbler's kids, does that sound familiar?
Yep.
Most accountants, especially at this time of the year, are in that zone. They're not taking care of their own financial world. Okay, so you will at the next opportunity, and that's the way to look at it. Stay on top of the must-dos. If something slips, it slips. You'll get to it the next time. Again, Matthew's speaking very wise words. Credit issues are just issues to deal with. They are not the end of the world, and they shouldn't be treated as such. So we've actually hit the end of the hour. I want to make sure that we're being responsible with everybody's time as well. But we can stay a few more minutes if anybody has any burning questions, wants to talk, wants to chat privately.
I think Les still wanted to share, right?
Note. Yep, and I unmuted you, Les.
Okay. We still can't hear you.
Les, you're not, we're not hearing you, sir.
I tell you what, if you want to type it in, we'll read it for you, because I know you're always full of wise words. So, to everybody who joined us today, thank you very, very much. Thank you for the space to, kind of share a bit more about this story. I hope that whether you're here with us now or watching it after the fact, just recognize it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay. I personally believe you never fail until you truly give up. So thank you very much. I put in the chat specifically, I put a link for next month's session. We would love to invite you guys to go over and register for that one specifically. Again, we're trying to do something a little bit different. Instead of just getting you guys on a whole like train of all 12 of them and it's annoying on your calendar, we're going to let you guys know about each session towards the end of each one, and invite you guys to come join us for the next one and get it on your calendar. It'll always be a month out. We've strategically scheduled them away from conferences and all that type of stuff, but they will basically always be Fridays at a 1 p.m. Pacific. We're trying to be kind of towards the end of the day for Eastern to make it a little bit easier for people to attend, but not into their nighttime. So we hope that works extremely well for you all as well. Any last words, everybody?
If anyone is interested in registering for our next event, Forley will be sending an email reminder, so you'll have the link in there too.
Perfect. And again, Forley, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure working with this company. You guys, when we get to do these things, we're very selective of the companies that we'll do it with. We don't just like take anybody that wants to like put together a webinar, and Forley's been a great company. We truly, truly appreciate it, and we're excited to do this whole series with the company. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
On that note, here's wishing you all a very successful week.